Hi everyone, I'm Lorraine from Simply English Edinburgh. Welcome back to my channel, and today's video is a little bit different in that I'm not necessarily teaching anything per se. Rather it's an advice video on how to know if you are ready to take the Cambridge Proficiency Exam, the CPE test. It is quite a daunting prospect for a lot of people, but stick with me because I'm going to break down my ideas for how to know if you're ready. I'm going to give some advice on where to look for extra material, and if you are preparing for this exam, please stick with me until the end because I will be telling you how you can get my free study guide for this exam. So let's get started. So I'm a small business owner, and when you own a business, it's important at least once a year to carry out what is known as a SWOT test. Now, a SWOT test means that you analyse the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats to the business. And I think that planning for your proficiency exam should be no different. I think it's really important to identify these areas. Okay, so let's start off with your strengths. Generally speaking, I find that students who contact me regarding preparing for this exam fall into kind of two different categories. They're the ones who have prepared for maybe the first certificate and done that exam, and then they went on and they took the CAE exam, and now it's sort of the natural progression that they will move on and take the proficiency exam. And the strength therefore of that student is probably their familiarity with the test and also having studied many complex grammar structures when taking the advanced exam. The other student that I tend to get are people who have been living in the UK for many years or in other English speaking countries, and they are living and working in their professions. They are in contact with English at a high level in their day-to-day lives, and therefore these people will often identify their strengths as their communication skills, perhaps their speaking or their listening skills. Now, once you have identified your strength, and this is so important, you need to perfect it, hone in on this skill and master it. Because what a lot of people tend to say to me is things like, Lorraine, my speaking is my strongest point, so I'm not too worried about that. And they kind of put it to one side or want to put it to one side and focus on other areas of the exam. No, that is the rock you will perish on. Absolutely not. I think if you've got a strength, you need to develop it, master it, and perfect it. So you need to spend just as much time developing this as you would focus on your weakness. Because remember that this is an exam where you don't actually have to pass all of the parts of the exam to pass, and therefore whatever areas you are strongest at, you should be trying to maximize your scores in these areas. Okay, think about it logically. I'm a sports fan, as everyone knows, or as those of you who know me personally know. I mean, think about it like this. When Cristiano Ronaldo found that he was really good at scoring free kicks, there's absolutely no way that he was just like, oh yeah, I can do that, and that he practiced other areas of football. Absolutely not, at least from any of the documentaries or things that I've read about him. Not stalking, I promise, but I'm someone with a keen interest, and I found that no, of course not. He spent absolutely hours perfecting this tactic, and it should be the same with you. So if, for instance, you find that speaking is your strength, make sure that you know high-level vocabulary for various topics that come up in the exam, that you're studying collocations, phrasal verbs, and that your pronunciation is down. Really focus on mastering that skill. Next up, we're going to have a look at the weaknesses. Now, people tend to be able to identify their weakness a little bit easier. Perhaps for people who've been living here for a long time and working, maybe they haven't written formal essays for a long time, or part 4 of the use of English transformations, maybe things like that are the weakness. Well, you need to dedicate a large portion of your time to improving this area. If you say to me, I hate writing, you can be guaranteed that as your teacher, I will make you write more. Okay, that is the thing. Whatever you find the hardest to do, I think when you're studying, you should focus on it first. get it out of the way, get used to practicing it, but you will also, like, your brain will realize that it's actually very rewarding to improve and do better in an area that once you really disliked. Okay, it's like anything in life, your brain will release that kind of endorphin. Sorry, I'm not a biologist, but I think that's what it does. So when you're performing well in an area that you found tough and you feel like you're improving and doing better, it will really help you to, keep focused, see improvement, focus on your weaknesses 100%. Opportunities. Now, this is the area that I could talk about literally all day because you have so many opportunities when taking this exam. The first thing I would say is obviously go to the Cambridge website and download absolutely all the information you can, which is available freely about the test. One of my colleagues, a former colleague of mine, should I say, she always said to her students 50 exam papers. So when someone would say, like, how long does it take to get to proficiency, she would say 50 exam papers. And I always thought that was kind of like basic, but now I realise what she actually meant by that is you need to know the exam inside out. There cannot be any surprises for you on the day. Like, there is no way that you should be walking into the exam and when you get your essay, you look at it and think, oh my God, I didn't realise I had 2 texts that I had to read and compare and write about. No, you should be well prepared for that. So download the prospectus, which is going to give you information about the exam, but also, equally importantly, download the marking scheme. Know where you're going to get marks, know what they're looking for. If not, you are preparing blindly, because a lot of people are just writing and they don't know what the examiner is looking for, and that, to be honest, is crazy. You need to have that down, know what they're looking for. Other opportunities, obviously, I would say are have a look on YouTube. There are tons of teachers, there are tons of mock exams available. There are wonderful websites as well. Flojo is one, Exam Essentials is another. They have like a lot of material on there that you can practice with, as well as obviously buying books. Just go online, there are a lot of free resources. There are some great teachers that are putting out content, so do make sure that you are watching and reading up on as much as you can. But also what I would say is something that is really within your control is something that I do myself as a teacher is I go through the exam papers and I make a list of all the topics, okay? So for instance, the environment, travel and transport, technology, crime, healthy eating and lifestyle, etc, etc. Okay, so I have all of this information down the left-hand side of a notebook, and then what I do is when I go through the exam papers, I make a note of what is coming up. For example, the essay in exam paper 1 is related to the environment. Okay, so I'll make a note of that. Then I can see that speaking part 3, for instance, is related to crime, and I make a note of that. And this is something that's in your control because you can go through, you can see what topics are coming up the most frequently, and you can focus on these areas. Because the thing with the proficiency is that technically the preparation is in one way endless, because how do you get to that level? It seems impossible. But if you hone in on the most common topics, you really focus your target vocabulary related to those, it will really help. I think that will help for those of you who are planning on teaching in the future as well, because a lot of people take proficiency so they can go on and do a teacher training course like the CELTA, for instance. That is something that as a teacher you should be doing as well, because when I tell my students, oh, this is something that comes up frequently in the exam, I'm not just making that up. I've got evidence and I can show them, look, I've gone through X amount of exam papers, and in 6 of the exam papers, the environment came up in speaking part 3, you should be aware of that. But as I said, you don't even need to pay someone to do that for you. That is an opportunity you have. You should be able to do that kind of work yourself. And finally, threats. Now, what is a threat to you taking the exam? Well, the first thing I would say is that you need to be doing timed practice at home, which I think should be obvious. You know, if you know that you have X amount of time for reading or writing, you know, you should have your clock on at home and timing yourself, which is one thing, but I would also say that you should be timing yourself at different times of the day. Okay, now ideally, if you're doing a mock exam, I would say if you know that in your country, in your specific exam centre, the exams start at 10 a.m, that's what ideally you should be doing on your day off. You should be getting up, getting ready and sitting at your desk, and at 10 a.m. starting the exam, and starting it if in your testing centre, like in most, they're starting with the reading and use of English. Start with that and work logically through the exam in a timed fashion so that you can see how you're performing under exam conditions. Now, the threat to doing that, I would say as well, is that, you know, at home you tend to be so comfortable. You know, you're there, you've got your coffee, perhaps you're wearing your dressing gown, you're all comfortable, you're in a really nice chair, you've got no background noise. That might not actually be the reality of the exam. I know for a fact that some of the testing centres are in city centres, they're next to busy roads, you're going to hear background noise, okay? So do make sure that you are practicing, for instance, doing the listening exam on your laptop without headphones, with perhaps some background noise. Because the thing is, if you're at home comfortable always doing the listening part of the exam with your headphones in, when you go to your exam centre you might find that you're actually in a room with, who knows, 50? I don't know, maybe that many people won't be taking the exam, but you never know. There might be a large group of people in the exam. You would like to think that everyone's going to be quiet, no one's going to sneeze, no one's going to cough, and no one's going to make any noise. That is not the reality. You know, you need to think as well about how close or how far you might be from the audio. These are all things that you should practice at home for like the worst case scenario. I know some of you now are going to say to me like, okay, Lorraine, like this is extreme levels here. But at the end of the day, these are the threats that you should be preparing for. These are things that could go against you on the day. Similarly, you should practice with different partners where possible. Because the reality is that, you know, I would say very few people probably go to proficiency without having some idea of the structure of the exam. But imagine if you walk into the test and you're about to start speaking part 3 and your partner has never done this kind of diagram before. So practice with people who are like, they have no knowledge on how the exam structure is, so you're kind of leading and guiding the conversation and carrying it a little bit. Practice as a group of 3, because remember, a lot of people practice with just a partner. They turn up on the day and there are 3 people, which is also a possibility. So vary your conditions is basically what I'm trying to say. I know I've come around that in a very long-winded way, but do make sure that you are varying your conditions as you practice. So basically what I would say to anyone who is preparing for the exam, if you have done all of those things, you have practiced at home with a timer, you've practiced in various exam conditions, you have done multiple exam papers, you are using English in your everyday life, then I would say go for it. If you're finding that you're getting good marks in all of these mock exams that you're doing, set a date and go for it, because there is this kind of fear about like, when will I ever be ready for an exam like this? But if you are getting good results in your at-home preparation tests and in class, set a date, get your exam planner ready and do it, because a lot of people end up pushing it off into the distance. And yeah, you need to be realistic about if you add extra time to prepare, are you just delaying the inevitable, or is it time that you can actually use in a valuable way in order to improve your English? If not, set the date, no more procrastination, just go for it. Just before I finish up, I would like to recommend some YouTube accounts and Instagram accounts of native English speakers who will help you to build your vocabulary and your fluency and practice your listening skills. These are accounts that I follow myself from my personal pages, and I think all of them have something really cool to offer, because at this level I feel like it shouldn't just be about maybe developing vocabulary, but you need to be exposed to native speakers talking about different topics as well. The first account is on YouTube. It's a guy called Ali Abdal. I think I've mentioned him before on at least the Instagram page of the school. I think he is fantastic. He is a junior doctor based here in the UK, and he reviews tech products. He talks about his life as a doctor. He talks about motivation and procrastination. He reviews books. Like, the guy does it all. He's a genius, so definitely check him out. Another YouTuber that I absolutely love is Patricia Bright, and she actually has 2 channels. So her first channel, Patricia Bright, her personal one, she does a lot of lifestyle content, beauty, fashion and things like that. She has another account called The Break, which, again, it's an amazing account. I absolutely love it. She talks about finance, investment, entrepreneurship, and everything like that, and I think really, really valuable content there. And some Instagram accounts that I think are worth following. The Food Medic. So Hazel Wallace is also a doctor. She is Irish, living in the UK like myself. She is a doctor, nutritionist, personal trainer. Again, absolute queen. She's brilliant. So she talks about like food, diet, lifestyle. She does recipes on there, like, she is brilliant as well. And another great account is Zana Van Dyke. Zana is also based in the UK, and she does a lot of lifestyle and fitness content, and a lot of environmental work, so talking about sustainability, which I think is a big topic for the exam as well. So really worthwhile content on there to have a look at. So guys, I hope this video has been useful for you. If you would like to get a study planner on how to prepare, or to give you some guidelines for the proficiency, please sign up to my mailing list. I'll leave a link in the description box below. And as always, thank you so much for your support. Please like and subscribe, and share this video with your friends who are thinking about taking the exam. And of course, best of luck to all of you who are thinking about taking this exam. Cheers, see you in the next video.